want to hit perfect. All right. All right. So welcome everybody to this first workshop of March. Holy cows, I'm trying to rush March. We're going to be talking about avoiding scams and predatory marketing. So we're going to get started on this. Lots of information. I have to say, unfortunately, you hate that this is a topic we have to talk about, but just to introduce myself, I'm Lynn McCann. I'm a financial coach here at Questus, as well as an accredited financial counselor. And hosting with me today is Kimberly, so I'll let her introduce herself as well.
Hello, happy Thursday. I am Kimberly Essie. I am a financial coach and an accredited financial counselor as well. Really happy to be doing this workshop. Second time we're doing this workshop because it is an important topic and information changes so quickly that it really does need to be refreshed quite often. So I'm happy to be doing that again with you.
I know, like technology moves and the scams move with it, right? They just get more and more intense, I guess would be the word. But so if I want to do a few housekeeping things before we get to the agenda. So if you want to ask us a question or if you have a comment, you can throw that into the chat. You can address that to everyone. Everyone will see it then, or just to the host and panelists, which would just be Kimberly and I that could read that. So depending on how you want to share that, that's just fine. But please ask questions as we go along. We're happy to answer them while we're in the thick of it. So one, we don't forget, and two, it's timely information for you. There's also the question and answer button or little, I guess, bubble that you can click on, and that will come directly to Kimberly and I, and we can read that off. And please ask questions, because if you have a question, we are sure that somebody else has that same question. So love questions here. But I'll let you do the agenda, Kimberly, and let us know what we're doing today.
Great, thank you. So today we are talking about scams, which is top of mind, at least for me, because I've been seeing a lot more. You probably have too, both at work and in your personal life. So we're just going to talk about some of those common online scams, scams that can even happen in person or on the phone, how to spot them and how to protect yourself from those scams. We're also going to be talking about predatory marketing and ploys, which is another thing that I think is very top of mind when I think about looking at my spending plan and seeing some of my subscriptions and how I got roped into that because, oh, it's a volume discount or a subscribe and save. These are all things that are very common jargon in society these days. So talking a little bit about the psychology of that, shopping online, and how to protect yourself. As well as advocate for yourself. And then there will be a Q&A section at the end. But again, like Lynn said, if you have questions as they come up, please feel free to send those in the chat or in the Q&A.
Right.
Okay, so first things first, who here has experienced a scam? And just put your hand up or you can write in the chat. But I certainly have, Lynn. I know we've talked about this before. I've been seeing lately, I've been seeing scams that are asking me to reset a password because I've been disconnected from a bank account. Sometimes it's not even a bank I have.
Right.
I've also been getting emails. This is for a long time. I've been getting emails saying, oh, you've won something and click here to redeem. And it's got a link that looks really nefarious. And the email has some mispronunciations and some typos.
Right.
Lynn, what about you?
Yes, I mean, all the way from, and everyone probably already knows, student loans are my thing. So been on the lookout for a lot of those. And with the repayments starting and the new save plan and the forgiveness, tons of stuff out there, as well as just, I don't know, I find it a game to kind of spot these things on Facebook and Craigslist that it's like, oh, that's a scam. That's a scam. So and it's not only for me, it's for my elderly parents, even my kids that are, out on their own, things that are targeted towards them. So it's not just, you personally, it's people that you love. So that's why I think this is so important and to know what's out there. So let's talk about some common online scams that we've compiled. And by no means is this all of them, but these are the most popular ones that we've seen out there.
Yeah, so this is one that we've been talking about quite a bit in other workshops on this topic, but you've probably heard of it, spoofing scams. They're getting more and more complicated. They're getting especially with AI and ChatGPT. And we didn't really mention that because I was going to just lead into that, but it's getting it's getting easier to spoof people. And I think that there's a lot of really rapid change that's happening in that space, especially online. It's hard to know what to trust. You see a picture, you're not sure, is it real? Is it not real? Uh,
Well, yeah, and they tug at your heartstrings too, especially for this first one that you're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah. So the charity scams and disaster relief scams, these are really successful scams because when there is a disaster, when there is a war effort, when there is something going on that grabs your attention in the news, we really want to do what we can as human beings to help others that are in that situation. Maybe we've been there, maybe we don't
Mhm.
know about what it's like to be in that situation. And so we feel drawn to help. But a lot of times, some of these crowdfunding type things for these efforts are not legitimate. And it's hard to know because there can be an abundance of these types of efforts, and we don't know what's real and what's not. So that's a huge one. Um,
Especially, I want to just mention on this one, GoFundMe's, because I see a ton of those going through Facebook, like help this family. And it could be very legitimate, but I know a lot of those are scams as well. So,
mhm. Yeah, I've seen those too, just not even disasters or charities per se, but more someone is in the hospital and they need some assistance. I think it's always really a good idea to vet that to if the situation allows it to reach out directly to someone in the family who might know about that, not necessarily directly to the person, obviously, but there's ways to verify that and to kind of check that out. But that is definitely an issue. Mailers, charity mailers, emails, or texts asking for donations or pledges. I know it's an election year, so you might be getting, if you're like me, a lot of text messages donate to so and so in this state
yep,
or that state.
yep.
And some of those can be legitimate and some of them aren't. Always really good practice to look really closely at those. We'll talk a little bit more about how to protect yourself, but that's something that's really big right now. Calls, just regular phone calls to check in on a donation that you've made that you don't remember making. So that's a red flag. Debt collection scams. These have been around for a long time, and I'm sure we've all been a victim of one of these calls.
Yes. And as the economy gets, I don't want to say necessarily worse, but as, inflation goes up and people are struggling, and not maybe making their payments on time, we start to see these debt collection scams and
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, and especially with student loans. I'm sure you've seen that.
tons.
Yeah. So by the way, if you're ever getting something that you're not sure if it's valid or not, you can ask a coach. You can come to us and we can try to help you with that because we see it a lot and we know what's valid and what's not, especially with student loans. So
Yeah,
please do let us know.
for sure.
Grandparent scams. My grandma has been a victim of this. She didn't send any money, thankfully, but someone called her and said my brother was in a jail in Mexico or something. She called my mom to say, "Hey, is Patrick in Mexico?" Which was great. Um,
Yeah.
she she had this person on the phone, and then she called my mom with her cell phone, and so she was able to. My mom said, "No, he is not. He is here. He is literally here right now." But this is something where someone will call. Sometimes an older person, usually it is an older person or a family member, to ask for someone to cover bond. It'll be a grandchild calling saying, "I'm in jail, help me, can you send money," Western Union, whatever it is. It's more common than you think. This is another one where it's not necessarily that you would be fooled, but someone that you love could be fooled. So
Yeah, and I wanted to mention, because you mentioned AI and I just read about this, they are able to, with the AI technology, to clone your voice if they have a sample of it, and then use that to call the family member. So it sounds like you calling, asking for these things instead of a third party, which would make you more suspicious, right? So it's same thing though, hang up, call back at the number that you know them to be at, or just verify it if it seems fishy. But man, they're getting good at these, so sometimes they're hard to spot.
that's really scary. So letting an older loved one in your life know about these kinds of scams and developments like what Lynn said is really going to go a long way in trying to mitigate some of these scams.
Definitely.
There's the good old romance scam, getting catfished, the love interest online that you haven't met, but that you're developing a quick and fast relationship with, and who all of a sudden would love a gift card from you, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
These happen.
Yes.
Um, Mail fraud and prize scams, these are also not new, but there's a lot of new and creative ways people are trying to reach out to let you know you've won something and click here. That can be malware that you're downloading, or it could be click here and send us money, because if you send us money, you'll be entered to win this prize. And no, it's all a scam. And it can happen in email form. It can happen with pop-ups. The pop-ups are the worst.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, and then what else? So okay, so this is a big one. So foreclosure relief, mortgage closing, or loan modification. The mortgage closing one is one that I heard about probably, gosh, 5 or 6 years ago. And I went to refinance and knew about this kind of scam. And so I did a lot of research on my mortgage broker, who was managing the refinance, because they were not in my state, so I hadn't met them. I went to Better Business Bureau. I went and checked if they were licensed. And then as I was going through the process, I tried as much as possible to communicate by phone, to verify the things I was getting emailed. Because in the process of doing a mortgage close, you may talk with like 5 different people at that mortgage company, asking for very personal information and sending you wire instructions and all of these, and you're trusting the process because you recognize the email, but also you're not sure, if you haven't talked to that person before, you're not sure if that person is actually the person you should be talking to, who you should be verifying with. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So that's something definitely that has happened. And I know someone that has happened to, where wire instructions were sent and it was not the correct place to send money.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of fraud around, yeah, especially mortgages, foreclosures, and now that we're moving into and seeing more foreclosures happening, we might see this one ramp up. It really goes kind of ebbs and flows with the economy and what's going on when we see them. But the other one too there is the IRS. I'm at least starting to see those scams coming out because it's tax time. And so it's like, get your refund faster, or there's an issue with your refund, so give us your social security number and that sort of thing. And then the social security, again, that's aiming at, the older generation who's receiving that, and they, it's the government, so trust them, right? Which, yeah, again, if you're not technology savvy, you can definitely fall for a lot of these scams, I think.
Yeah.
So go fish, not in a good way though.
I like this slide. So I wanted to give you some facts, some sobering data. So since 2019, which is already 5 years ago, can't believe that, but
I know.
since 2019 in the US, the number of phishing attacks has increased by more than 150% yearly. Phishing is the single most common form of cybercrime, and an estimated 3.4 billion emails a day are sent by cybercriminals, designed to look like they're coming from trusted senders. And that's over 1 trillion emails per year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Email impersonation accounts for an estimated 1.2% of all email traffic globally. 1.2. And around 36% of all data breaches involve phishing. So that's more than a third.
Yeah.
In 2021, the average click rate for a phishing campaign was 17.8%. So that's almost a success rate of 1 in 5.
That's better than most like email campaigns get, I think.
I know. I know. I actually have a little bit about that in the second portion of our workshop about the psychology of shopping online. And then more targeted spear phishing, which is these are phishing campaigns that aren't just trying to have a broad net and maybe they'll get some success, maybe they won't. These are more targeted specifically to you, who you are, where you work, where you bank. They know more information to make you trust them more. So these targeted spear phishing campaigns, they have an average click rate of 53.2%, which is more than half the time.
Right. Then if they use their like all of this for good, I mean, they could have help companies and businesses out, but no, they're using it for evil. But they are very
Absolutely.
convincing.
They
Yeah,
really
and
are.
I also like the different names for depending on where you're getting fished from, the fishing, smishing, and vishing.
I won't remember them, but I wanted to put them on here just in case people really want to be specific about the type of fishing, but
Right.
it's all fishing, really. You can call it
Yeah,
fishing.
they're trying to catch you. That's the big thing there. But it's
Yeah.
like I don't know, when I read that, it reminded me of a Dr. Seuss book, right? Fox and Socks, that sort of thing.
It makes it sound a lot less scary than it really is, right?
It does, but it is definitely something that, yeah, should be on the forefront of our minds when we're looking at really any communication that we're getting.
Mhm.
So we're going to go through quite a few phishing, kind of common phishing attempts and what that might look like. So emails and texts from sources that appear legitimate. I don't know about your phones. Mine does a pretty good job about when I'm getting a phone call telling me if they think it's spam or not. And that's nice. But emails and texts don't always do that. So um something they might say is there's a problem with your account. So this could be your credit card account, your bank account, your car loan account, anything like this. And it's going to appear legitimate. You're going to probably see a logo. I'm just going to throw one out there because I got one the other day from Chase saying that, my checking account with them there's something wrong with it. Please provide your login information or go to this site. I looked at the site and it had login information, but I don't have a Chase bank account. So that was what tipped me off for that. But it's not always that easy because they can know what your bank account is. So, if there is ever a problem with your account, just go directly to the source. Don't click on things because it could be something that either they're trying to fish for your password, fish for your secret question answers that you do on there, that sort of thing. An invoice you don't recognize. So this is always good. Double check with, if you have a significant other that you're paying bills with, that it's not something of theirs, it's not something of yours that you should be paying. That's where having, your spending plan down, knowing where your money's going, you should know then that you don't owe this invoice for some reason. If there is a question, call the company that it's saying that you owe as well. So an attachment or link. Oh, these get people all the time. This is where they're going to download the malware that Kimberly was talking about if you're clicking on an attachment or link. And so it can look like it's from a trusted person. I know email accounts get hacked, so it could look like it's from a friend or coworker. Just be wary of clicking on it and double checking with the source that you think it's coming from, that it is an actual legitimate link that you're doing or opening for that attachment. Asking you to change your password. Now, this could be something that's legitimate, but most of the time it will ask you when you're logging into the site that you need to update your password, not through an email. It could let you know through an email that your password's expiring, but they should not be requesting you to send in a new password via email or text. You should be doing that through the appropriate websites where you have those logins set up. Request that you click a link again or call a number. Feel free to call the number. Sometimes I do it just to mess with them when I know it's a scam. A little bright spot in my day, and I had them talk to my toddler once on that because they wanted to talk to the head of the household. So I gave her the phone.
Love it.
But ask questions, really kind of demand the information. If it's legitimate, they're going to give you that information. If it's not, they're going to try to like walk around it and get your information. So just be aware of that. Fake social media profiles. Oh my gosh, these are rampant. I mean, it's amazing. So if you're getting a friend invite from someone you feel like you're already a friend with, it could be a duplicate account. If you're getting stuff from them that just doesn't seem right, it could be they were hacked. I've seen that a lot, especially on Facebook Marketplace, where they just they're just using someone else's profile to look legitimate for you to feel comfortable with whatever they're selling or doing. Facebook Marketplace as well as Craigslist. I know Craigslist used to be the place to go to sell and buy things. I'm not sure how popular it is anymore, especially with Facebook Marketplace, but it still exists. Scams still exist out there. Kind of are tried and true. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. I would say 99.9% of the time it is. Concert and event reseller scams. This one is crazy. Usually if you go to a site, I'm going to use because my favorite artist is Garth Brooks. So you go to Garth Brooks's site, you will see the authorized retailers of his tickets in that. So you know that if I receive something from, A1 Tickets where they've got these deep discounted Garth Brooks tickets, I'm like, meh, that's not usually who they go through. So trying to save a quick buck on tickets could probably lead to a scam where you're not even going to see those tickets, right? So be careful of that. Fake job scams. This one's tough, especially with people looking for jobs. You want to get the job. You want to make sure you're providing the information the potential employer needs. But I would say go through sites like LinkedIn, Monster. They do some vetting of those employers on there. Anything else on that one that you would recommend, Kimberly? Because that one, it's like tough because again, you want to provide the information because you want the job, but you don't want to give it to someone who's scamming you, right?
Yeah, I think it's really about verifying the email it's coming from. Does it look like it's actually the registered email of the company, which you can check by going to the company's website? You can
Right.
even cross-verify if you're seeing jobs on the company's website, if you're seeing that job on other sites with the same contact info. That can all be ways to verify if that's
Yeah.
a legitimate contact or not.
Yeah, and that's great. I'll even go into the careers page on a certain company site to see if they're advertising it there too. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So that, and then this one, rental and vacation scams. This is big in my area. So rentals are tough to come by, and we've got a lot of vacation rentals here. And what we see is a scammer that just lists a picture of the property, which they might have gotten from Zillow or somewhere else. They don't own the property, but they're taking application fees. They're taking, you know, your information through the application, which, there's very sensitive information that you provide, just like with mortgages when you're applying to rent a place. And then, we just had one locally. It was so sad. They were from out of state. They rented a place. They got there thinking they were moving in, and lo and behold, someone lived there. It was a scam, and they moved across the country thinking they had a place to live. So this happens, and it happens a lot. So just be careful. Ways to avoid this: either go look at the property before you give an application, talk to management agencies usually, have ways that you can vet them that manage rentals and that sort of thing. But this happens even through like Airbnb and all of those apps that people will post fake ads and get people to put deposits down. So, again, if it's a good deal and it's too good to be true, probably really sniff that out. And then student loan scams, these are coming hot and heavy for everybody right now that's even been to school, but maybe not even had a student loan. And some aren't necessarily scams, but they're not in your best benefit, which we'll talk about with I don't want to say deceptive marketing, but the marketing that really pulls you in to make decisions that maybe aren't in your best interest. So we'll talk a little bit more about those and what it looks like. But like Kimberly said, if you ever have a question like, is this a scam? And you're having trouble figuring that out, come talk with us because we can walk through it with you and give you ideas of how you can figure out how it maybe is a scam or isn't a scam. So what do you do? So jump in on any of these two, Kimberly, if you have some extra input on it, because I think these are so important. So if you hover your mouse over the sender's address, because sometimes it'll just come up as a name when they send it to you, but if you hover over it, you can see where the actual address is coming from, and that is really a good indicator for if it's a scam or not. So look at the orientation of it. So like at chase.com. Okay, that might be legitimate, but if it's at gmailxyz.com, it's probably not going to be something that is valid and they are a scam. So verify independently. This is what we were talking about when if you get something, let's say from your bank or credit card, but you're not sure about it, reach out directly through their official websites if they sent you that information. And they should be fine with you doing that if it is legitimate. Now, if it's a scam, if you're talking with them and saying, I'm going to call, my 1-800 number on here, they're going to push back against that. So if they're pushing back against that right there, that's a scam. So just be leery of that. And then, I know when I worked at like the university, so it was a government job, we had a ton of these. It's like it would come from looking like our boss's email saying that they needed us to give them our debit card number because of a certain order or something. And, it looked really legitimate until you really dug into it. So that's where you're like, call your supervisor. Hey, did you really send me this? And they should be fine with that because you're protecting the company. Generic greetings like hello or anything like that, just without your name, without really anything identifying you. This is again, like Kimberly said, they're casting a broad net, so they don't want it to be too familiar to you, but they want it to be familiar enough that you're gonna click on it or do what they're asking you to do. Typos are big. So it's like if you're like me and aren't a good speller and have questions, copy and paste the text of them email into a Word document. See, I've had clients do that too, because it's like, okay, let's see, how their spelling is. Because I would like to say, though, professional emails don't have misspellings, but they still do. But again, it's one thing that kind of, if you're ticking the boxes of this is suspicious, that is. Consider a VPN. So what this is a virtual private network is what it stands for. And what that does is it allows you to work off a secured server that maybe you don't have the money to pay for a secured server, but it's one that, is I don't want to say a community one, but you pay to have that security to work off of that. So this protects you in the fact that it makes it harder for someone who's out there to get onto your computer to get information through that kind of stuff. Security software and making sure that you update it regularly. So there's a ton of them out there, just depending on how much you want to pay and how like heavy security you want on that. But make sure you update it. Make sure you're running scans. Make sure you shut down your computer so that it can do that stuff every now and then. And just making sure everything is up to date will help. Using a multi-factor verification or authorization. Um, that one, I know people get really annoyed. A lot of companies are going to this because it's an extra step that you have to do for security. But again, it's protecting you. So when they're sending you that passcode to have you log in along with your email, if it's something that just as another layer of security. So think of it like that instead of it being an annoyance, because I know sometimes when you're trying to log on fast, it just can be frustrating. But I mean, today I received, just today in my email, 4 emails from Microsoft saying that here's the code you requested. I didn't request a code. So someone's on there trying to get onto my account, but because of it, it has that multi-factor authorization. They're not able to unless they get into my email and get that number. So just be aware that it's there for your protection. Report it to the company that's being impersonated. If they have just kind of a general number you can call or email, let them know what's happening. They may not even know someone's out there scamming in their name. So it's another way to try to shut it down for other people as well. And you'll never win a prize that you didn't enter for. So just be aware of that. I know there's some smooth ones out there that try to trick you into that, but just know that it's not something that you probably have won. Anything else on those, Kimberly, that you'd like to share?
We have a few more on the next slide about protecting ourselves that I'll get into that I think will be a nice complement for what you just
Perfect.
said.
We'll
Mhm.
jump into that one then.
Awesome. So, other ways to protect yourself from scams. If it's by phone, it's best just not to answer if you can. Once you realize that it is a scammer, hang up. Or like my husband does, he'll just ask 20 questions and try to have a conversation, and they finally just give up and hang up. And
Right.
that's him. But I
Hey,
just don't answer.
sometimes you need that bright spot in your day, just messing with a scammer, right?
Right, exactly. Ask for details about the caller if you're on the phone with them. Verify them. Do your research. So if they're saying they're from such and such place, they want your donation, they're a debt collector, get their information and then get off the phone with them and do your research on that. That can be searching online. It can be checking your information to see if that checks out with what they're saying. But you don't need to be on the phone with them. You can get their information and then do your research. Don't give financial information over the phone, no matter how urgent it seems. And in fact, if it seems urgent, definitely don't do it. Nothing is urgent. And someone making you feel like it's urgent is trying to get something from you that they probably shouldn't be getting. And never send money or gift cards to someone you haven't met. This relates a little bit more to um, romance scams, but it can also relate to someone that's saying they're your boss, or there's someone at your company that's saying, I need you to urgently send a gift card to this client. We were getting some of those a couple years back, I think, with our someone impersonating our CEO. And we all knew, like, oh, that's not legitimate, but it does happen.
Definitely.
Um,
And I've actually, so I was at CVS a couple of years ago, and this it was a kid, like a young kid in his probably late teens, early 20s, buying a ton of gift cards. And the cashier actually asked him, why are you buying all these gift cards? And he explained this situation that was so scammy. And actually, the clerk refused to sell him the gift cards, which I thought was pretty cool, that was protecting him. And everyone in line was trying to tell him, too, this is a scam, don't do it. And so, I mean, it happens to all ages as well as all situations. But yes, just be aware and make your loved ones aware too with that one.
that's good. Yeah, we see this in real life all the time. Now, going back to if someone's trying to get you to donate to something, there are really good ways to verify the veracity of those organizations. I'm going to link them in the chat. But if you're interested in getting more information about a charity or a company, you can go to bbb.org, Better Business Bureau. You can also go to charitynavigator.org, give.org, or any other third party where you're doing the research on it, or just going directly to that donation or that charity's website and donating directly there. Um, that's the whole point if they really want your donation. So that's a secure way to do it without having to give your financial information. And then again, going back to the romance thing, this can be especially pertinent for older adults, single older adults, meeting someone online. Confirm a love interest via a video chat. And if your older adult family member or friend doesn't really know how to coordinate that, help them with that. Get them the help they need to do that, because if it's a true love interest, there's not going to be an issue wanting to connect via video chat. In fact, they would want to also do that to protect themselves, right?
Right.
So, encouraging that is really important. If you think a crime's been committed, contact non emergency law enforcement. We also are going to have a slide of different places you can go to report different types of scams. But again, if you think a crime has been committed, please do call non emergency law enforcement.
And I would also say, at least in our area, the sheriff's office asks us to do it. If we think that we've even been targeted for a scam, to let them know, just so that if they get enough people calling about it in the area, they can put out like a informational thing about, hey, be on the lookout for these calls. They're not us, it's a scam, that sort of thing. So even if you didn't get taken by the scam, it might be good to report it so that others aren't in the same boat and getting taken for it. So,
That's great advice.
all right.
So if someone does call or email you claiming you owe a debt, this is something where I think it's always good to talk to a financial coach such as us, because there are ways to deal with your debt if that's what you need to do, but you also don't want to necessarily resuscitate debt that's already been paid or that is zombie debt. And we're going to talk about that because I think that's really important to know. Zombie debt, that is old debt that kind of comes back to haunt you. This could be either debt you've already paid off, it can be debt that's too old to be collected, or debt that belongs to someone else entirely. So these debt collectors may be trying to get money from you that they don't really have a legal right to go after. But acknowledging that it's your debt means that you have restarted the debt collection process, and now it is legitimate, potentially. So knowing that that could happen is reason enough to not really talk to someone who's trying to collect debt from you without first verifying who they are, what the debt is, getting the details about the debt, and then doing your own research offline to make sure that's debt that you actually owe, or if it is debt that you owed, do you still owe it?
Right.
And
Yeah. I've had clients that I've talked with that they was discharged in a bankruptcy, and like years later, 10 years later, even when the bankruptcy's off their credit, they'll get a call on a collection for it. And sometimes it's a debt that they currently have that's a current debt. Well, so let's say they had uh, a JC Penney card, it went through bankruptcy. They cleaned everything up. They got a new JC Penney card. So sometimes it's hard to tell if it's a zombie debt or if it's your real debt. But if you're on top of your finances, you should know that you don't have a late payment on something or it hasn't been turned to collections. And so knowing that it's probably that trying to collect on this debt that they bought your name for pennies on the dollar, essentially. And so anything they can get out of you is great, even if you don't technically owe that debt anymore. So yeah, huge.
I'm going to link something I think is really helpful. We did this in the last workshop on this topic. It is a debt collection letter template and conversation starter, as far as not starting the conversation, but being able to talk to someone about. So if you're getting a debt collector calling you, how you would talk to them about that, which is say almost nothing, but to simply say, tell me more about this debt. They'll tell you more about the debt and you'll say, okay, thank you, I'll do my research. Or you'll say, okay, thank you, bye. Or you'll just simply hang up without saying anything. And then you can use this debt sample letter to get more information about the debt from the valid place that you need to go to learn more. So I'm going to just link this in case anyone finds that interesting. Um, yeah. And then I think the other main points of this slide would be that if you do owe a debt, if you find that it is a valid debt that you do owe, you can talk to one of us. You can talk to a coach. You can also talk to a free or nonprofit credit counseling program. NFCC.org is one we recommend all the time because it is a nonprofit that you can be certified with to be listed on their site as someone who gives nonprofit credit counseling. That means there's not going to be anything financially in it for them. They're grant funded usually, which means they don't take a fee from you, or they take a very limited fee from you, but they're not necessarily saying don't pay your debt and put your money in an escrow account like a for-profit credit counseling program might do.
Yep.
Don't do that. No
Yep.
money up front.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, how do you report scams, phishing, and fraud? We've talked a little bit about this, and we said contacting the non-emergency law enforcement. Also, I think I'm not sure if you put these links in yet, but we're gonna link in reporting to the FTC for that, as well as some other ones here coming up. So if it's an older adult and you believe they've been a victim, you can go to eldercare.gov, and this could be a victim of scamming from people they don't know or scamming from people they do. A lot of times caretakers will act as a fiduciary, which is they take care of the financial aspects as well as the physical aspects of a person, and sometimes the abuse can come in that form too. So again, it's just good to keep an eye on our older family members to make sure they're up to date and not falling for these things. If you think someone's safety may be at risk, which again, the example of the caretaker, call 911. I mean, that's the thing. Non-emergency line, if it's just something you're reporting that, hey, they reached out to me, but if someone's in physical danger, you want to call 911 for that, of course. So report the scam to your state attorney general office, because sometimes these scams are targeting certain states and populations. So it's important that they know about it as well, and the more people that report it, the more of an issue they know that is out there, and then they will hopefully take action against the people. But sometimes they're hard to find, right? They've gone through so many of their own servers, they can't track them down. So reporting the fraud or scam to the FTC, which we put that up there, and also reporting to the FBI and FTC, which Federal Trade Commission. So what you're looking at there is anything that has to deal with like bank accounts, investments, that sort of thing. And then the FBI, if it's again something that's more widespread, you can do it to all of them, as far as we've got the links up there just to make sure that all your bases are covered. Any other suggestions that you have for them on this one? Yeah, we gave them quite a bit of information there. And again, this is a recorded workshop. So if you know of some people that maybe missed it, let them know. Or if you want to go back and review it for things, you can do that too at a later date. It'll be on the platform after we're done with it. So, oh, this one gets deep. I think there's a lot we can talk about with the psychology of behind online shopping.
There really is. It could be its own workshop, and
Exactly.
but it's at the tail end of this one, so we'll try to get through.
We've
um,
got some time to talk
got some
about
time.
it, and I think we'll hit the big ones, but yeah, you can do a pretty deep dive, I think, down these rabbit holes. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. So purchase decisions are often subconscious and they're driven by our cognitive biases. So, purchasing decisions we make aren't necessarily fully recognized by our waking brain. We don't know what's exactly driving our actions sometimes. We do think with cognitive biases, so we're not necessarily thinking based in logic or objective reason. I remember, so when I went to college, my undergraduate was an economics degree. And I always thought this is all assuming that we're rational actors in the economy, which is not true. So,
No.
theoretical models on the economy can range from being kind of accurate to totally inaccurate based on the idea that what's driving our purchases are just not even completely aware to us, even though we think we're acting rationally and logically. The truth is anything but. Now, we can act rationally if we know that these biases exist and we are recognizing them and deciding to act on our actual logic and reasoning, not instincts, but on that drive rather than our instincts, which may be to acquire something or to kind of fall prey to some of the tactics we see in marketing. And something that we're going to talk about is that social proof, which is we believe others have done something, so we trust and copy those actions, groupthink, if you will, can really affect the way we view buying something or making a purchase. So that's something to consider when the next time you're making a purchase is what factors are influencing your decision. Is it something that someone said is a really good product? Is it a review you saw? Is it something that's trending on one of your social media sites? Is it something you truly have wanted for a long time and you've had time to really reflect on that?
Yeah, I would also say with that that it's good. Sometimes it's not always comfortable, but to do a deep dive into why we as a person do things the way we do it, right? And learn our triggers and that sort of thing. So like you said, Kimberly, we can recognize it when they're trying to, I'm going to say, prey upon those and get us to buy something again. And especially nowadays, like, our phones are listening to us because you say, wouldn't it be nice to have a greenhouse? And then in your Facebook feed, there's ads for buying a greenhouse, right? So they're getting very tricky with this kind of stuff.
So, dark patterns or deceptive design. So, dark patterns or deceptive design are design tactics that are pushing users, such as us, in certain directions, like ads that are hard to close or unfamiliar page elements or locations that make it hard to navigate a website. And anytime a market is dishonest with a message or a tactic, it is a dark pattern. Um, it is illegal, however, it's really hard to enforce because, let's say, fake pricing is illegal, fake scarcity is illegal, but it's really hard to prove something isn't scarce.
Right.
It's really hard for the FTC to manage the sheer number of sellers in the marketplace who might be engaging in this kind of deceptive design.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to track, and therefore it's really on us as consumers to advocate for ourselves and to know that these things may be happening and that may be misleading us into making different purchase decisions than we would make if we knew there was an unlimited amount of that product, or
Yep.
it was easy to close out of a pop-up ad, or actually go
Right.
to the site without having to sign up for, you know, newsletters.
Right. And not only like the dark patterns, deceptive patterns, and illegal stuff that goes on, there is actually a whole career based around designing websites to draw you in and to make you purchase. And it's called a UX design, which is user experience. So even though it's not maybe doing it to be deceptive, their websites that are trying to sell you things, that they set them up to make it as pleasurable and easy as possible. So just know that that's there as well, not only the deceptive side, but just appealing to what we want or what we see through the design of their website is also a thing.
Mhm.
Oh, see, there's a biggie. I love that biggie.
So, some examples of predatory marketing in dark patterns: creating FOMO or fear of missing out. This can be countdown timers. So, how long that you have until your cart's going to get emptied, or how long you're going to get this price for. That you're going to miss out on that price if you don't buy it in 10 minutes. Limited time only sales. This is only good for the next 24 hours or less.
Black
Scarcity,
Friday.
Black Friday, yep. Very effective.
Yep.
And then scarcity marketing, such as low stock counters, saying, "Oh, low stock. This is a really popular product. Only two left in stock. You got to buy it now. You're going to miss out forever."
Yes,
It ignites
exactly.
that sense of scarcity, that fear that we're going to miss out if we don't do it right now. It's that sense of urgency we mentioned in the first half of this workshop, where
Stanley Cups right now, like
yes.
that's the perfect example of what's going on of FOMO.
Exactly. That's a great example. So creating popularity, this can be the Stanley Cup with Target, yeah. Creating a sense of something being popular by having a lot of ratings, which I have literally met somebody whose job it was to do ratings.
Mhm.
And it is not, I don't think, legal. I know it's frowned upon. It might be illegal, but that was her job. And that's not what she called herself, but that was what she was actually doing.
Mhm.
So there's creating ratings, whether real or fake. Many are fake, but when you go onto a website and you see 5,000 ratings for something, even if it's not a 5 out of 5, maybe it's a 4.3 out of 5, you might trust that more than you're going to trust a product that has a 5 rating but only 5 reviews.
Mhm.
So having this sense of popularity, that feeling of, oh, if other people are doing it, then it's probably a good product,
Yep.
can be really, really powerful on our psyche. Marking it as a top seller, indicating it's almost sold out. These are all ways of creating that sense of something being really popular. Gotta have it now.
Right. Yeah, and making sure that you're checking the dates on like a lot of the ratings, because you'll see sometimes they've like December 18th, there was like 25-star ratings. That's kind of fishy, right? How many
Mhm.
people are jumping on to, rate those things at the same time?
Yep. And then buying more, saving more. Just saying, oh, well, I've got to get the sixth one because it's free. So I got to buy all five, but I
Yep.
only really wanted one or two. You're
Grocery
saving more.
stores are great at that. Yeah, buy five, get $1 off each or something
Right.
like that, which might make sense for you. I mean, if it's something you buy a lot of and you want to stock up on it and it's a good price, great. Costco. That's, another example of buy more and save. So sometimes it works for you, but just be aware of that subconsciously they're kind of like, okay, if we can get them to buy that many, better for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Initial discounts, where if you sign up for this newsletter, you're going to get 15% off. You're going to get a free trial. You're going to be on auto renew. Usually, you have to opt into auto renew, but that's not always the case. And sometimes you're buying something and you're subscribing. So you want to make sure you're looking at that. And it can be hard to cancel and make changes to your cart. I know some companies you have to call to cancel, and people really don't want to call somebody because then they have to explain to them why they're canceling. There's some anxiety there,
Right.
especially if you're a millennial and you just really want to text people or just click cancel. You don't want to call someone, so that can be definitely a tough one.
Whenever I sign up for something, I always check their cancellation policy and how I do it and research that. Because if they're going to make me call and if it's going to be difficult, then no, I'm not going to subscribe. So that's a way you can hopefully avoid a lot of that. And then other marketing ploys uh, that are in play. Um, these are sales on overpriced or overstocked items. So maybe that something is on sale but they marked up the price and then brought it back down for a sale price. So just kind of knowing things you buy and how much they cost, you can avoid that. And then overstocked items, they may say it's an overstock sale. Just make sure that it does seem like a sale on that. I mean, a lot of times they'll just do that just to get you to bite. Stores have what's called loss leaders, where they'll put that on the front of their ad or at the front of the store. And these are things that they actually lose money on, but it gets you into the store and gets you shopping, and they're okay with that. The way for you to save is just shop those loss leaders at different stores and don't be drawn into the rest of it. So that's one way, but that's what stores will do. Rewards, frequent buyer, and extending credits. So buy now, pay later is the new layaway, I guess, but you get the product first and then you pay for it. Some of these also, if you don't make the payments on time, will have stiff penalties and interest attached to them. So just be sure you know what you're doing. Don't do buy now, pay later on consumables that you're going to like soaps, household things like that, food. Never is something you're going to consume in a short amount of time. The product should outlast the payment period, basically, is what you want to look for there. Store credit cards notorious for high interest rates on those. A lot of stores are now doing their own credit cards, so you can use them outside of the store as well. But with like any credit card, make sure you know, is there an annual fee? What are the interest rates? What are fees and penalties that they might charge on those? Rewards earned for purchases. So if you're going to use the store or company, great, sign up for their rewards program, like get discounts on gas. I know it's some, those sorts of things, but just be sure you know what you're putting your information out there for, and it's not going to be something that leads to like unnecessary purchases or temptations on your part. And then subscriptions, the auto pay and subscriptions, that one is, yeah, definitely something that can get you, especially if you forget about those subscriptions. So there are tools that will scan and show you all your subscriptions that you may be paying for, and they just look for reoccurring payment amounts, that sort of thing. Yeah, I go through my email and cancel those subscriptions through there too. So you could do searches like that, but just be aware and keep track somewhere of what you're subscribing to as well, so that you're not caught unaware when they renew that subscription.
All right, so this is our last slide. We don't want to keep you too long, but ways to protect your wallet and spending plan. So only buy more if you know you'll use it. Avoid one-click purchases. It's much easier to overspend if you don't have to enter your credit card information. You might think twice if you have to get up and go do that. So avoid those. Sit on the decision a bit. I think that that can look different for everyone. It could be a day, it could be a week. I think a week's really good, because if you still want it by the end of the week, you might actually want it, but it seems like enough time that I've definitely changed my mind about some purchases. Include fun purchases in your spending plan, so you are allowed to use a little bit of your money to be able to shop online and not feel bad about it. Unsubscribe from emails or text marketing. If you're getting a free trial, cancel before the renewal. Add a little task on the day you need to cancel on your phone or your calendar to remind yourself to do that before you get charged. And then cancel unused subscriptions or auto pays. I try to do this every couple months. I'll take a look at what I'm subscribed to. Is it still relevant? Am I going to get an accidental charge? So that's something to really get in the habit of doing every couple months. And then don't shop when you're experiencing halt, hunger, anger, loneliness, or tiredness. You'll
Yep.
probably make a bad decision.
Retail therapy.
Retail therapy. Try self-care in different ways and see if that helps. And then shop when you're not feeling those things. Have a snack. Try websites where you can barter, trade, upcycle, or bid, where you don't have to purchase, like a no purchase group. Like those are on Facebook a lot, where you can join and then you can trade goods or services. It's a spend nothing group. Those are really useful. You still get that itch of getting something new, but without having to spend money on it.
And the one thing I would add really quick too is disconnect. You like don't save your credit card information so it can automatically populate when you are looking at buying things online. There's been a ton of times that I have been guilty of this where it was saved and it was just easy because I just clicked the card and it put all the information in and I bought it. Now, if I have to go get my wallet to get my card to put in the information, it doesn't seem as appealing. So that's again the thinking and waiting, but to avoid those impulse buys, disconnect your card from any of that. Um, And then we've already talked about all these, so we won't do that. But if you guys have questions, throw them in there. We're happy to stay a few minutes over. As you're thinking about that or typing your question, I just want to let you know about the next workshop we have in a couple weeks on March 28th, again at 12 p.m. I do believe this one is public facing. So if you have friends that might be interested in it, please have them sign up as well. There's a link below. You can find also a link on the platform, and it's what women need to know about money. So it's if you've got women in your life, if you are a woman, it's great for everybody because it just kind of talks about some of the issues that women face when dealing with money, and knowledge base that may be lacking, or just information that might help get us ahead. So, and we do thank you for attending the workshop today. We love to have the participation, and hopefully you found some good information that you can share or that will be useful for you. And again, this is recorded, so you can jump on and watch it again. Or if you have direct questions for your situation or want to learn more, make an appointment with a coach. We're always happy to help and answer those questions. Any last minute thoughts before we sign off?
I don't have any. I think we covered it all.
We did. We covered a lot. And so, yeah, again, if you guys have questions, reach out, use the Ask a Coach, or just make an appointment directly. So thank you everyone for attending, and just happy to have you here, happy to be here, and hope to see you at the next one.